Welcome back to our series on Out of Order. The last time we were together, we reflected on encounters we had with things that were out of order, the impacts of that disorder, and the outcomes when things remain out of order. If this is your first time joining us, we're glad to have you and hope you stick around. In these next few videos, we want to answer the question, what is your priority? We challenge you to think critically and honestly about who or what you place first in your life. It is our hope that those who may not know God might come to recognize the importance of a relationship with Him, and that those who already know Him recognize the importance of strengthening their relationship with Him. It is normal and perhaps expected for our preferences to take priority in our decisions. We understand this principle well, especially when we view it through the lens of some of our everyday exchanges. Consider, for example, UPS Priority Mail, American Airlines A Advantage, Hilton's Honors, Avis Preferred, or Amazon Prime. We understand that participation in any of these programs provides one with extra benefits or perks that aren't accessible to all customers of these businesses. We also understand that these benefits come with a cost beyond that of a regular customer. But we recognize that the benefits can far outweigh the cost when properly utilized. Thus, one who participates in these programs makes a conscious decision not to casually allow the benefits or cost of these benefits to be wasted. When I think about how one prioritizes use of these programs, and much more importantly, how one prioritizes their relationship with God, I'm strangely reminded of the story of Goldilocks and the three bears. In this story, Goldilocks tries the belongings of three bears, Mama Bear, Papa Bear, and Baby Bear. And each time, she discovers that Baby Bear's belongings were just right for her. Ironically, when it comes to the believer or follower of Christ, Christ encourages them to be like a child, suggesting that it is the child who has the right posture to enter the kingdom of heaven, found in Matthew chapter 18, verse 3. Children possess an innocence, humility, and naivete that aids them in being more likely to listen to and obey God. When a child receives proper guidance in their formative years, they are less likely to fall off track and much more certain to find their way back if they go off track. Thus, God reminds us to train a child in the way in which they should go, and when they are old, they will not depart from it. Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6. We ought not be surprised by Satan's focus and attack on the minds of our youth. He fully understands and recognizes that if he can alter the minds of children, he can change a whole generation. Perhaps this is why God had to allow a whole generation to die before he delivered his people into the promised land. God needed his people to lay down a slave mindset and adopt a mindset of liberty and freedom that placed God front and center in their lives. Do you know what it looks like to walk in liberty? Or are you still bound by your past? Find a mature believer and learn how to walk in liberty today. Let's further examine or explore what it looks like to prioritize God in our lives through the lens of a to-do list, and how we attempt to find balance in our relationships with God, our family and friends, and life. But before we do, watch and listen to this short clip from a speech Denzel Washington gave during the commencement ceremonies at Dillard University in New Orleans, Louisiana in 2015.
Put God first. Put God first in everything you do. Everything that you think you see in me, everything that I've accomplished, everything that you think I have, and I have a few things, everything that I have is by the grace of God. Understand that. It's a gift.
A to-do list is a tool that one uses to identify tasks to be completed and organizing those tasks to manage one's time and optimize outcomes. Sometimes our list may include tasks we are 100% responsible for completing, partially responsible for completing, and even some that we delegate to others while only being responsible for ensuring that they're completed. Sometimes our list may be structured as a simple checklist with little to no priority given to the order in which each task is completed. And other times, there may be a strict order by which tasks must be completed. In either of these cases, we still have an unconscious preference for some tasks over others. I suggest to you that our preferences for one task over another are filtered by our past experiences, knowledge, understanding, and comfort level with each respective task. While there are certainly other influences for our preferences, I believe these to be some of the most influential. For example, if I have an apprehension of talking to people and or making a request of them, then I might hesitate or even avoid tasks on my list that require me to make phone calls, asking people to attend an event, or complete some other action. But if someone made the calls and I just needed to keep a record of those calls made and organize them for someone else to use that information to perhaps determine the best times to make future calls or improve the cooperation with requests made, then I might jump at the opportunity to complete that task if I had more confidence in my ability to complete data entry or building and using spreadsheets. Even when our to-do lists are just mental lists we keep, we regularly find ourselves making decisions that alter when or if we will do something based on our preferences. Just as our preferences can impact our decisions can likewise influence our preferences. Our decisions, when repeated over time, may become habits that begin to change the order in which we do things, because our decisions gradually affect the values we place on our preferences. It is this reciprocal relationship between decisions and preferences that can have us find ourselves way off course and completely unaware of how we got there until we pause and reflect on the journey. The author of the New Testament book of Romans, Paul, in chapter 7, writes of the struggle to do the things he knows he should do and to refrain from the things he knows he shouldn't do. I submit to you that this same struggle is central to our struggle in choosing God's order for life, which is constant and reliable, over our order for life, which is changing and deceitful. When we humble ourselves and surrender our order for God's order, we begin to find a peace that had been forever fleeting and a joy that had been perpetually passing. As Brother Denzel Washington reminded the class of 2015 at Dillard University, we must remember to put God first in everything we do. Finding balance in our relationships with God, family or friends, and life can sometimes feel like a daunting task. For clarity, when I use the term life, I'm referring primarily to those things we do perhaps to earn a living, or those things we do for leisure and fulfillment. To those who don't believe there is a God, the idea of God, family, or friends, and life might look more like self, family, or friends, and life. I submit to you that when we deny the presence of God, we by default place ourselves in His place. We subconsciously attempt to take full responsibility for ourselves while lacking the sovereignty to do so. There is a countless number of involuntary functions or reactions that occur within the human body. How can one deny the existence of God with the awareness of these and other complexities existing within the human body as well as in other parts of creation? Building and sustaining healthy relationships involve dedicating time, attention, and effort to the object of which we desire to develop our relationship with. While God is considered omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent, we are not pardoned of our responsibility in the relationship. I cannot take the stance that because God is always present with me, knows all about me, and possesses the power to alter my circumstances, that I have no responsibility to the relationship. Perhaps you've heard the saying, when the cat's away, the mice will play. This saying speaks to the idea that we tend to act differently based on who we are around or who is around us. When considering my relationship with God, I have the responsibility to always act like God is with me. Strengthening my relationship with God also involves me being honest with Him and trusting that God's actions or inaction in my life is meant for my good and for the good of our relationship, even when it may not make sense to me. Our relationships with our family or friends should, in short, reflect our relationship with God. Thus, when we recognize that our relationships with family or friends are a bit off or somewhat sour, we must first reflect on our relationship with God if we are to find success in restoring our relationships with family or friends. Lastly, our relationship with life, if we are not careful, can morph into becoming our identity. Consider for a moment things like Q-tips, aspirin, Band-Aids, or chapstick. These are a few brands whose names replace the terms cotton swab, aspirin, bandage, or lip balm, which are the actual terms for the products they represent. For the brands becoming the namesake of the items they represent, they often become the leader and standard for that product. But they can also sometimes be mistaken for a lesser or inferior product and potentially receive bad reviews because of this mistake. God created you and I to be that name brand that has the capacity to become synonymous for being who He created us to be. But we can quickly find ourselves becoming like that generic item mistaken for the name brand, becoming a disappointment to those who encounter us and dishonoring the one who created us. When we focus more on the gifts and talents that others see when they see us, then we focus on the God who planted those gifts in us, we lose sight of the very purpose for which the gifts and talents were given. The gifts and talents become devalued, turning into entertainment or simple pleasantries instead of serving the original plan and purpose they were intended for. Have you made God your priority by placing your relationship with Him first in your life? Do your relationships with family or friends reflect a healthy relationship with God? Do you honor God with the gifts and talents He's blessed you with, or do you use them solely for your benefit? That which we give priority in our life leads our life. So if you or any other human is responsible for leading your life, then you are sure to fail. While God may use us and others as vessels to guide one another along the way, these moments should serve as confirmation for the things God has spoken to us during our personal time with Him. It is a beautiful and profound thing to have God use someone at the most opportune time to speak on something we have only ever shared to Him, with a familiarity and intimacy that could only be given by God. If you know, then you know. And if you don't, then I urge you to speak to someone who can relate to this experience. The writer in Proverbs chapter 3 verses 5 through 13 encourages us to trust God with all our heart, not to lean on our own understanding or wisdom, to acknowledge God in all our ways and fear Him, to honor God with the first of everything we are blessed with, and to not reject the chastening or discipline of God. If we become like children as God instructs us, we would recognize our limitations and need for our Father's guidance and direction. As children, we would embrace God's discipline, recognizing His love for us despite the displeasure we feel from the discipline He gives us. Also, like children, we would be eager to bring to God the very things He blesses us with out of pure joy and excitement. So when you are making your list for your day, week, month, or life, remember to put God first every step of the way. And ask Him if the plans you have are the plans He has for you. Lastly, remember that when you prioritize your relationship with God, your relationships with family or friends and your relationship with life should serve as a reflection of the very relationship you have with God. Remember, put God first in everything you do.